Can we outsmart scam tactics? That's a good question, isn't it? Tonight's episode of Scammed on SBS asked that very question. Ken Gamble is a private investigator with 36 years' experience. I think he's seen a fair bit over that time, I'd imagine. His company investigates scams and recovers stolen money when law enforcement often can't help out. He joins me now. G'day, Ken.
Yes, good morning, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Nice to chat with you. What are the most common scams that people are facing now?
Well, the most common and the most profitable scams for criminals are investment scams, especially crypto-related scams. They're probably the biggest in Australia. There's like an epidemic of those types of scams. Also, fake job offers, romance scams are surging. Again, romance scams particularly that involve cryptocurrency investment. So anything that surrounds investment or jobs or anything online where people are trying to earn extra money, they're the most prolific scams across the country.
Wow. And so are they getting your details and going from there? Or I guess in the romance scam case, they ask for money eventually, don't they?
Yes, that's correct. And what they actually do, Bill, is they go out. It's not that obvious. They don't just call people and invite them to invest. Actually, people go online and they see a pop-up ad comes up on Facebook saying how you could make $5,000 a week from home without having to go to work by using a special algorithm, a quantum AI type of artificial intelligence algorithm, and you can make a fortune. And people fall for this all the time. And then they contact the company and then they start the process of being groomed by very professional sounding brokers. And all of a sudden they've fallen into a trap where they invest some money and they see that money going up on the screen. They believe they're making money. And they're lured further and further and further into this situation where eventually they get in a gridlock where they can't get their money out and they've got to pay more and more fees to get all their money out. So it's a painful experience and a traumatic experience for the victim because they then go and borrow money off family, friends and so forth to try and get their money out, eventually losing everything.
Is it are the scammers getting more sophisticated, or I hate to say this, but are we getting a bit dumber? I mean, it's some of that stuff. It's the old to me. I see it all quite a bit. And if it's too good to be true, it usually is. But obviously, it sucks people in.
It does. And the scammers are using more and more sophisticated tactics as well. You know, these are very clever people. These are not low-life criminals who are not educated. There are people with university degrees working in these call centres, making calls to people, reading off scripts. So these are not people who should be discounted as being stupid people. These are clever. These are organised syndicates. They're large scale, so there's sometimes thousands of members of these syndicates based in call centres in foreign countries. So we tend to underestimate just how clever and sophisticated they are, and the use of technology, the use of AI now, it fools a lot of people, and a large portion of our community are vulnerable to these scams because they simply don't know. They're simply not aware of the dangers of getting involved in one of these investments.
Yeah, I must admit, it's just about things in every normal, everyday life, transactions and requests that get made of you, and it's really hard to know what's right and what's wrong. You really got to just what's your advice? Because unless it's a direct contact from a bank, and even sometimes those requests, I've got to ask some of my kids, I go, is this right? And they'll sometimes pick out and go, no, see, there's a mistake in that email. And it's like, wow, I didn't pick that. It's hard.
Correct. It's difficult, and it's becoming more and more increasingly difficult, even for young people who are switched on and alert. The key is to treat everything with suspicion. That's number one. Stay alert, treat everything with suspicion. Ask questions, trust your gut. Go to a person whenever you get something you're not sure of. Get advice from a family member, from a friend. Ring someone up. Get a second opinion, because that second opinion can often save someone from financial devastation. You know, and of course, listen to people that have been through it, as in tonight's episode on SBS, which which is all about scams. Tonight on SBS, that's what the show's about, and you'll hear from victims that have been devastated by losses. One of our victims who lost $1.8 million was completely devastated of his loss. A couple of years later, we got all that money back for him. So we restored his life and we did that to prove that it's possible. A lot of this money goes overseas, but it is trackable. But it's so important for people to treat everything these days with suspicion and do some due diligence and be very, very careful what you believe online.
Tell us about the process of investigating what you do with these scams and how you recover the money.
Yeah, well, we track the digital footprints. We being an international firm, IFW Global goes across borders. So we have no limits across the world as to where we will go to and what lengths we'll go to be able to track down the digital footprints of the scammers. So we track the money, we track their communications, we track their crypto wallets, we identify the wallet holders, we find out who cashed out the money. We profile those people, we put them under covert surveillance, we identify the syndicates behind the scams, and once we identify the source of where that scam's coming from, we will fly a team into that country and we'll brief law enforcement and we'll go out and we'll kick their doors in with SWAT teams, which we've done repeatedly in recent years. So it's really a matter of tracking them down, and police are not geared up to do that. They're not allowed to go overseas. They have to rely upon their international law enforcement partners, whereas we have existing relationships with all of law enforcement all over the world. And the only way to tackle this type of crime is to work public-private partnerships together, go across borders and take the fight to the scammers.
Wow, that can't be a short operation, and it can't be a cheap one, I wouldn't imagine. What's involved in something like that, in a major one?
Well, it's certainly not a cheap operation. For people that lose millions of dollars, they're willing to invest in retaining a company like ourselves to do the work. And we're doing the work of the police quite often. We're preparing the briefs, we're doing the statements, we're doing the tracking, we're preparing all of the evidence, but we're taking it, we're not filing it here in Australia, we're taking it across to another country. We're getting special power of attorney, we're appointing a lawyer, we're doing all the work. So yes, it does cost, and there's a risk versus reward assessment that everyone has to do in these cases. If you've lost only $10,000, $50,000, even perhaps $100,000, you have to seriously question whether or not it's worth going down the route of recovery, because it can become expensive. If we freeze money, for example, which we do on a regular basis, you have to be able to then hire a lawyer. Lawyers are not cheap. So you have to have money to get money back, and that's the sad part, is that most Australians that lose money do not have the funding, and they have no way, therefore, to get to people like us that have the skill sets to be able to track the money. The government won't pay us, so there's a big black hole when it comes to recovering assets for victims of scams.
All right, and just a quick one finally to wrap things up. Do you think changes are needed in terms of the banking system, the financial system, to better protect people from scams as well?
Well, absolutely. I mean, a large portion of this money that goes to scammers flows through banks. So I think the banks could be a lot more proactive and invest a lot more money on scam prevention. I mean, we've hardly seen any anti-scam campaigns, except for the last 12 months or 18 months. We're starting to see adverts. This should have happened 12, 13, 15 years ago. We should have seen national campaigns, just like the drink driving campaigns, where people are warned of the dangers of driving and the horrific carnage that can happen when you have a car accident when you've been drinking. The same thing should have happened with scams. These are devastating crimes. They leave a path of destruction. They destroy not only the victim, but the family members, the friends, the whole life of that person is left in financial and emotional ruin. So there has to be more that can be done, and the banks should be the first ones to stand up and say, well, let's fund a national task force, let's fund asset recovery efforts. That probably would have recovered billions of dollars if they had gone after the assets of these criminals. But I think the banks should do more. They have to invest more. They have to be more proactive, and they should really put some money into more proactive enforcement. That's my belief.
Fascinating to chat with you. Thanks for your time, Ken.
No worries, Bill. Thank you.
Ken Gamble, private investigator, 36 years experience. The episode tonight on SBS is Scammed. It's on Insights, and it's at 8:30 p.m. on SBS and SBS On Demand. And given what he's just said, I'd say it's worth a watch.